Hi, my dragons. So today is February 5th, and we were supposed to be in person today, but snowstorm, black ice, all of that fun stuff. So I'm doing a video. So today we're in Victimology, and we're doing the cost of being a victim. I'm not sure what book you're using. It might be chapter 4, depending on the edition that you're using, but the cost of being a victim. And I wanted to go over some things, just slightly, and then we'll pick up on Tuesday, which we're supposed to have another storm, so wonderful. But anyway, so victims who come to the criminal justice system do sometimes receive a rude awakening, like something that's not expected, and they think that a lot of times that they're going to get justice, or that the criminal justice system is something like they see on TV, and it really is not. It's quite formal and seemingly detached, and the things that are in play are to move the case along through the docket, the list of cases, so that justice can be served in a quick and efficient manner. So victims are quite shocked by what they see, because it's not what they see on TV and stuff. So some of the things that really are particularly irksome for victims are things like they may have to wait in hallways. Sometimes their offender walks right by them. And, you know, that's an intimidating sort of thing. Sometimes they wait a long time, and then things get pushed back or canceled outright, or postponed to a day that's inconvenient for them. So some people may go to court, show up, and they find out, after they've taken time off from work and made arrangements for sitters and maybe taken public transportation, they get down there, and then things cancel at the last minute without even so much as a phone call. So those things are really bothersome to them. Some victims are just already in a state where, they're just numb to what's happening to them, or they're bewildered by it, or they don't have much experience in the criminal justice system. So all this stuff that's going on around them happens without explanation and without guidance. So that can be really intimidating and confusing for them as well. So a lot of times they're treated brusquely, and they don't even have someone guiding them or telling them it's going to be okay, or telling them what to expect next, not even a please or a thank you. So it really is an insensitive system, not deliberately that they mean to be insensitive, but they're not going the extra mile a lot of times to take care of the victim, which they definitely need to make the case, okay? So victims started to complain about these things naturally, or even worse, drop out of the process, which, the things can't move ahead without them. And that jeopardizes the case, okay? Nobody wants that. So they had to, prosecutors want to make the charges stick. They want to make a case so that it goes through quickly. And they need the victim testimony as well. So victim assistance programs popped up. We're going to hear from someone who works at the victim's assistant. And if you just put it in the back of your head, that's usually a really good internship site. Let's hope that COVID goes away and you can actually get into the court stuff, be a court advocate, which is really good. So there's a lot of direct and indirect costs for the victim, for their family, things that you never would think of, like that you have to charge a sitter while you're going through court, like you're not compensated for those kind of things, like if it's a controversial trial, unwanted publicity, people voicing their opinions about the case where they really don't know anything about it. So there's a lot of costs and a lot of time and a lot of issues that are associated with that. So the criminal justice system definitely needed and still does need to address a lot of these things. So one of the things that are really big is, like, suppose you're a victim of the crime and actually everything goes through. First of all, you've been through the trauma of your victimization, and then you have to go through the trauma of everything that happens after that. But let's say you get through it all, and your offender is convicted, and they go off to prison, and then they serve their time, and it's time for them to come out. It would be nice if the victim could have a say, or at least be able to make a statement at the parole hearing and have input into that. And sometimes they're not even notified as to when those things are, or even that their offender has been released. And if it's a violent crime, that can be really difficult for them. So the criminal justice system, when we have characterized different insults to the victim. So the first insult is, of course, the victimization, criminal victimization. So there's a lot of research that has been done on exactly what happens to the victim, what that experience is like after the victimization and during the victimization process. So the Milwaukee Victim Witness Project, that was a project that was undertaken to actually look at some of the difficulties that victims go through before, during, and after. What are their losses, their psychological toll? What is their property damage? Did they get compensated for it? What about losing time from work? What about disruption of their normal routines? Things that we take for granted. You know, like all of a sudden you're afraid to go out, you're afraid to be in a store, you're afraid to be alone. You're listening to every noise in the house if something like someone broke in or something like that. Also, the anguish that they feel, you know, interpersonal anguish, the emotional pain, and complications with family and friends who sometimes are just trying to help, but it may inadvertently make the situation worse, especially if it is a family member who is, you know, the offender. Okay, and we have seen that as well. So the first insult is victimization, and some of the categories that, you know, we do look at are economic losses, non-economic losses, societal or system costs, because it does affect society as well. And despite the perception that these problems are serious, most victims were alone, and they had to deal with the situation alone. So sometimes there's a lot of social services that are out there, and the victim knows nothing about it, okay? They're unaware of everything that's available to them. I just want to put a little plug here as an aside, okay? I know you can go online and you can see a lot of different things, and there are also actual books that are in print, okay? Your United Way does have a good website that should have, and I don't care what United Way it is and what state it's in, because all United Ways operate like this. And they publish on their website, and actually in a hard copy, something called the Guide to Human Services. And that has every sort of human service in the area. And they have a state one, they have one for your county. Seneca County has one. It's a really thin little book, but Toledo's is quite large. And it has all the catchment areas. Not only that, but it'll say what service is available, who's in charge, and then it'll give you a breakdown. So it would say victim services, it would say victim services for court, economic things, it would say social support. It would have all these different things. And there you would find some subgroups like parents of murdered children, child abuse advocates, grief groups, things like that, okay? So one of the things that is really good is the whole network and referral that you can offer as someone who works in the field to someone who's been victimized. And like I said, you're all going to be working in the field, so that's a good thing to know, okay? So a lot of victims who could have been helped because there were services available to them, for some reason they didn't know about it, and then they fell through the cracks. And that really is unfortunate, and that results in another type of victimization where they didn't realize that they had opportunities to them, okay? The National Crime Victim Surveys offers a lot of information courses and about crime and victim, and it runs into the billions of dollars overall that victims did not know about, that was associated with their crime, and they even break it down in terms of personal crime, property crime, physical injury, violence, bodily harm, all of these kinds of things. Not only things that are covered by insurance, but things in general, okay? And I did put a slide in there, I think it's slide 5, that talks about and shows you all of the different types of crime and who bears the brunt for all of those things. So that's really interesting for you to take a look at. It's called costs associated with the crime, and then who directly bears those costs. So we now know that the things that are discussed or revealed in the National Crime Victim Surveys are only just the tip of the iceberg. And so we're looking at like years and years of compiling data. So one thing was like 450 billion in 1987. How long ago was 1987? A long time ago. And they looked at the years 1987 to 1990, which was 450 billion. So you can imagine what it is today. It's like really astronomical. And that only covered just a handful of crimes. So crime is very costly, and it's especially costly to the victim. And again, I put more charts and graphs in there as well. So if you looked at all of the information that's available on every single crime or every single incident of the crime, you come to understand that the numbers that we're talking about are really out of control, okay? So, and that doesn't even count the new crimes that are out there, like identity theft, bullying, school crimes, crimes that are typically not reported, corporate crime, especially crimes that are hard to find, or that people may not consider a crime, and how much it really costs the victim. And these are things like, when I was in South Africa last year, we were looking at this, we drove by this place that was beautiful property overlooking Cape Town. It was just a gorgeous view and everything. And that was inhabited by black population. And so when the powers that be came in, they said, oh, this would be great to develop and sell to wealthier people. So what they did was they just moved them all out and put them into less desirable areas, actually into slum areas. And so that is a loss. And is that a crime? You know, moving some group of people out because some developer thinks that it's, you know, more profitable and would be more profitable, and they want to do that. So even something like that would, a lot of people would be like, yeah, well, that's what happens. No, see, that's a crime. Okay, maybe the state or the country doesn't identify it as a crime at the time, but that's what the ability to make law and to craft law is important for. And here in the United States, we can do that. There's a mechanism to do that, but still a lot of people are afraid to act on those things. But you know, you're lucky in the United States that we get to make laws like that. So violent crime accounts for a significant amount of spending in terms of insurance and medical spending as well, especially on injury-related sorts of spending. And violent crime also results, and this, we're just talking about violent crime here, so it's a considerable percentage of what Americans earn. And it's a significant percentage in terms of health care use, especially mental health care use, because you go through a lot as a victim and you need help with that. And again, what we know is only a portion of what's available, because maybe the only people who get to use that are people who have good insurance, or it's not a problem for them to get mental health services. But for the rest of the people who don't have that and don't have that available to them, that's going to become really cumbersome and a bad thing for our country. Okay, so 10 to 20% of mental health care expenditures in the United States can be directly attributed to violent crime, and a lot of Americans, more than 40%, are afraid that they're going to be a crime victim, and all the things that will come after that. Okay, and if you've ever been a victim of crime where you had to report to the police, that can be really difficult. For an example, last couple of years ago, probably by now, I was coming home on a dark and foggy, rainy night, and I was going relatively slow, but a dog ran out in front of me at night, and I hit it, and it was very traumatic, very, very traumatic for me. And I was like, oh my God, I got to find the owner, and the dog was dead. Okay, and I called the police because I wanted to file a report, and I did, and we were able to track down the owner because they had dog had a thing on its collar. I was a wreck. Okay, and I found the owner, and he was a veteran. It was his support animal, so the story got even worse. Here's the worst part of it. Because the dog was not tethered or on a leash, it was in violation of the leash law. And even though my car had been, the whole bumper was, it was a bigger dog, was damaged, guess who had to pay for that? The veteran. And he lost his dog. And he had to pay for it because the dog was out, and it was his responsibility to keep the dog tethered. Of course, I didn't make him pay for it, and I was so distraught as it was, you know. But that's the way the law is set up. So sometimes the laws work in ways that, again, re-victimizes the victim, and that's exactly what happened to him. I'm going to stop here, and we'll go into part 2.